I asked you the question I asked. I'm gonna ask you guys the same initial question.
Sure.
For people who weren't here the first time, over the last year, what have you done specifically in Ward 5 to help better your community or Ward 5 in general?
Sure, absolutely. So over the last year, I've done several things. One of the things I've done, I've worked in my own civic association, which is Stronghold Civic Association. I was president about 10 years ago. I was president again another term in 2009 and 2010, which I stepped down when I ran in 2010. But I've been working with them on some of the other initiatives that we have, like revamping the bylaws. As well, we've got an annual scholarship program that I helped to start some time ago. But one of the things I did recently was to revamp those guidelines so that so not only kids who graduate from high school that want to pursue college can get the scholarship, but also kids and adults as well who want to pursue vocational and technical education can also now apply for those guidelines and get the $1,000 scholarships that we offer. I've also worked with the McMillan Advisory Group on that project over there in McMillan, which is literally smack dab across the street from where I live on North Capitol Street. So I've been working with the folks from different civic associations, including Bloomingdale, Edgewood, Trucks and Circle area, Stronghold, folks on Channing Street, North Capitol Street on that project. As well, I've been parts of local boards. Right now I'm a member of the Metropolitan Washington Boys and Girls Club in the DC region, so I've been working with them on some of the local projects as well. So that's some of the things that I've been doing over the last.
You cited MAG as one of the activities that you've done in the community. You were once the spokesperson of MAG. What do you see as the chief issue with the McMillan Reservoir project? And similar to what I asked him, where do you think the plan is? How do you get the community around it? And if you become council member, I mean, what would you do to push this forward or not push it forward?
Right. I mean, I think that's an excellent question. I think part of the challenge is when you talk about any development project, and I'm a student of community development, and so I graduated Howard with degrees in political science and community development. And so, when you hear folks say community development, it's not just about the developer's bottom line. We've got to balance the equities between what the developers want, which is the for-profit organization, they want to make money, but also what the city needs in terms of generating revenue. But most importantly to me, not only as a resident, but as somebody who lived in their household for 60 years, is to make sure that the community has input in the process and that they're aware of the impact of these projects on the communities that currently exist. And so when you talk about McMillan, similar to what you talk about most of these projects that are coming up, particularly when they're supported by government funds, is to make sure the community has a stake and make sure they're at the table during this process. And so the chief issues with McMillan, in my opinion, are transportation and the environmental stormwater runoff. You've got an area like Bloomingdale, which if you get a heavy rain, are already faced with houses that flood and issues like that. And so I'm intimately aware of those issues that they face in Bloomingdale, which is also got traffic issues. Living in Stronghold, which is directly across the street from McMillan, folks on Bloomingdale, particularly the folks who live on First Street, we're already confronted with the traffic that exists in those areas. North Capitol Michigan Avenue is already a failing intersection. And so those issues need to be addressed before we move forward with that project, and that's what my position is. And that's what I've been working with folks and the residents and developers and the city to try to accomplish.
So if elected, would you continue to push the plan forward as is, or would you amend and go back to the drawing board, as Mr. Hubbard said earlier?
Well, if elected, I wouldn't want to do away with the 7 years of work that folks have been committed to. Folks like Tony Norman, who probably know McMillan better than anybody else in this city, have been working on this project since, 2006, 2007. You got folks who are ANC commissioners, who are civic association presidents, ordinary residents who've invested a lot of time in trying to get this project to where they want it. Obviously, as a resident, this project isn't 100% of what I want to see, quite frankly. I think there are a lot of folks who agree with that, but there are also folks who think that they'd like to move forward the way it is. To me, I don't think we should move forward until we address those issues that I outlined before, which include transportation and the stormwater runoff and environmental issues that currently exist.
With Walmart coming to our ward, how do you ensure that small businesses that offer the same services or items that Walmart may offer, how do you ensure that they remain viable and continue to thrive in our community?
That's a very tough question. And quite frankly, I think that's a question that would have been better answered by the folks who negotiated the agreement for Walmart. I think, being an attorney, having worked for the Department of Justice, traveled the country, representing my country in forming agreements for memorandum of understanding, consent decrees, when I've investigated nursing homes, mental health facilities, and things like that. One of the things is, whatever you negotiate while you sit at that table is pretty much what guides you throughout the process. And I think, the problem is we didn't get a strong enough agreement, and I think the community benefits that have been outlined, quite frankly, aren't suitable, nor do they put in place anything to really guarantee that those small businesses that currently exist will be viable. And so I can't guarantee that they will be viable. I think that's part of the problem when you bring sort of the bigger retailers to areas where particularly you want to develop, like Rhode Island Avenue. I think Rhode Island Avenue, we've got a really great opportunity to harness the energy from folks like Friends of Rhode Island Avenue, to look at the development that's currently going on at the station and build from that. To use that to spur further economic development further up the avenue, leading to the Maryland borders. And I think it's going to be tough to guarantee that new businesses will want to come and locate next to Walmart. Because one of the things you look at is what can I do? What service or product can I offer that Walmart already does? And I think that's going to be an issue that a lot of folks, small business owners, have to ask themselves and have to confront. And so, but I do think though that the city needs to get a lot more serious about how we address small business creation. One of the things you hear is a lot of local elected officials and regional officials, as well as the president for that matter. You always hear them saying things like, small business is the backbone of the economy, right? But when you look at, the district budget, you see how much money we put into the Department of Planning and Economic Development versus how much money we put into the Department of Small Level Businesses. I think, you talk about LSBBD, the Department of Small Level Businesses that, once upon a time had 20 to 30 FTEs, full-time equivalents, and now only has about 5 employees. And I think that gives you a sense of how serious we take investment in small business corridors. I think places like Rhode Island Avenue, New York Avenue, Bladensburg Road, North Capitol Street, 12th Street, these are all, 1st Street as well, in Bloomingdale, these are all critical corridors. Some of them are gateways to the city, to the nation's capital. And I think we need an infusion in capital to really help to get that jump started, to bring some small businesses back. Because quite frankly, the small businesses are the ones that are the backbone of the economy. They are the ones that are serious about servicing the communities around here. And quite frankly, they're the ones who hire folks most often who live in the community. And so as council member, I would definitely push to expand opportunities for small businesses, to make sure we engage organizations like the Washington Area Community Investment Fund, which is located in Ward 5, to make sure we're doing some of the small business loan, micro loans, and not only getting businesses created, and by the way, we need to streamline that process for creating businesses in the District of Columbia, but once we create those businesses, also continue to provide the technical assistance so those businesses can sustain themselves and grow. And so that's something that I'm working on.
I'm going to need you to get specific right here with this question. Rhode Island Avenue, let's use this for instance. There's a ton of small businesses, that have been around for, years. How do we make those businesses more attractive to, everyday residents, and how do we make the corridor more commuter friendly? What is your plan to embrace alternate modes of transportation? Buses, car sharing, bike share, to get people to actually walk the corridor.
Well,
what is your plan? What are some specific things that you would do?
Okay, and so one of the things I think we need not do is try to reinvent the wheel. I think we can look and draw on some of the things that are working across the city. You look at places like 8th Street, which is a great street like Rhode Island Avenue, right? And so, one of the things we need to do is to make sure we get more funding once we get elected to put back into Rhode Island Avenue. I think, in order to tear down the boards and try to eliminate the blight, you look at some of the work that folks at Friends of Rhode Island Avenue are already doing. And so I would harness some of the energy they're doing by asking folks what they'd like to see. Obviously, one of the things I think got wrong with the Home Depot is there's no street-facing retail. And so I think we need to be creative about how we expand economic development opportunities on the avenue. I think that's going to be critically important. Transportation, obviously, is something that's going to be important as well. You look at 8th Street and how they've got the streetcars that are coming. Ward 5 does not have a circulator stop that comes through Ward 5. I think that's one of the things we need to do, not only for folks to bring folks here to utilize the businesses once we create those small businesses, but to take some of the residents in Ward 5 out of Ward 5 into some of these job corridors that currently exist in the city. I think that's going to be important.
All right, when we talk about, let's go to schools for a second. Do you think SAT should be mandatory for high school students?
That's a tough question. Obviously, I know that's one of the things that Councilmember Brown sort of caught some flack for bringing up. Here's my take on that. There are going to be some kids who naturally aspire to go to college. There are going to be other kids who don't aspire to go to college. And, I think we need to have opportunities available for those kids who take that route to go to college. but just as well, we need to have opportunities for vocational education and technical training for kids who don't aspire to go to college. You know, when I was in high school, sure, I took the SAT. On the same token, I had two older brothers who had taken the SAT before me, who had both gotten higher scores than I did, who both had higher GPAs than I did. And so when they finished high school, they both went to college. But by the time I got to 12th grade, what I saw was that both of my brothers had dropped out and weren't successful. And so although I had taken the SAT, I didn't apply to a single college. It wasn't because, you know, I didn't want to go to college. It's because, you know, quite frankly, I didn't think I could. You know, in my household, nobody had ever gone to college. You know, and so I don't think we necessarily need to mandate the kids take the SAT because, you know, quite frankly, some kids, you know, they could be tops of their class, but they may not think college is viable. You know, if you look at some of the entrepreneurs around this country who dropped out of college, you know, and so I think we need to focus on things in education like more STEM education, preparing kids in science, technology, engineering, and math so they can compete in this innovation economy in which we live right now. And so I wouldn't necessarily focus on just taking that exam. I'd focus more broadly on making sure that kids are prepared and get the best quality education while they're in high school so they can compete for jobs immediately when they finish. And if they decide to go to college, they'll be prepared to take the SAT and pursue their dreams of going to college.
So you don't think it should be a requirement?
But I don't think it should be a requirement.
All right, what about school choice vouchers?
Well, I mean, you know, look, I'll tell you this much. That's a tough issue. And quite frankly, I wish everybody gets asked that question because it's such a tough issue. And
They will.
No, I mean, I'm serious about it because I mean, that's one of the things that's vitally important to this area. I'll tell you this. Ask me that question 5 years ago, and I would have told you that I don't support college. I don't support school choice because I was all about improving the public schools. I'm a product of the public schools. I graduated preschool from Shade Elementary School, right down there across the field. I'm sorry, from Edgewood Recreation Center. I attended Shade Elementary School, and I eventually graduated from Woodrow Wilson High School. But I'll tell you this much. Over the last 5 years, as a parent, it's difficult for me to look any other parent in the face and say, you know what, you shouldn't have the option to send your kid to the best education that you could give for your kid. And so when I think about things like charter schools, I support them because I think, you know, provide a viable alternative to traditional public schools. And quite frankly, when you look at the reason why they started to sprout up in the city is because the city wasn't providing an adequate education in its traditional public school system. I mean, I lived in personal experience. My parents took me and my brothers out of Shade Elementary School way back when because they felt that they weren't providing us a quality education. My mom took on a part-time job. My dad took on an extra full-time job to take us out of Shade Elementary to send us to Catholic schools, and I eventually graduated from St. Anthony's. And so, given my past experience and given my experience as a parent, you know, having sent my daughter to a charter school, having gotten lucky and hit the lottery to be able to send my kid, you know, up to a public school in Connecticut Avenue, I can't look any other parent in the face and say you can't pursue your dream of sending your kid to the best quality public school they see fit. So I would limit their options.